Hi guys, I'm Mike.
And I'm Stephen.
And this is F1 Fanatics. Welcome back to F1 Fantasy Weekly. It's Wednesdays and it's in the middle of another triple header. So, well, not another triple header, the first triple header of the season. So it means review preview.
Oh yeah.
It means we're going to try and wrap up all the action from the Hungarian GP and go through all the points and obviously go through how everything is looking in the league as well. Strange enough though, no rate your team this week because no one put any teams to be rated. So if there's no teams to rate, we can't rate your team.
Rate your team.
So we will miss that bit and it will just end off the episode with a Kimmy moment of the week. So in these review preview episodes, what we will do is we will go through the top 5 drivers in a little bit more detail and then run through all the kind of points that the drivers are on. We'll talk through the top 5 constructors, no surprise on who came out on top on that one, and we'll just kind of reaffirm, get Mercedes. And after that, we will obviously go through who is the top 5 in the league. Very competitive, actually, in the league, I think. It'd be interesting to see how those people who've played their Mega Driver early play out overall. Yeah. Certainly will be interesting. But we then move on to the preview ahead of Hungary. We're finding a different track. That's going to be exciting to see. And we'll give our top picks, our guys not to pick, reaffirm, pick Mercedes, and go through our turbo picks as well before rounding off with a Kimmy moment of the week. And bam! That's it. That's it done. Job done. Ticked it off. F1 Fantasy Weekly done. But if you're new to F1 Fantasy, you've clicked on this video, you don't know what F1 Fantasy is. Basically, it's like any sports fantasy game. You get a budget, it's $100 million in F1 Fantasy. You have to then pick 5 drivers and 1 constructor, and those kind of score points over the weekend in qualifying and race, and you compete against your mates or against the world, and you can actually win pretty cool prizes. If you manage to come out top overall, I think they're like paddock passes for Grand Prix, which obviously will be for 2021 when I assume racing will be confirmed with fans back. Fingers crossed after all this COVID business is hopefully done and dusted. And if you join our league, code on screen right now, you will then, if you come top in that, mystery prize. Mystery prize. Because we don't actually know what it's going to be yet. We're going to assess when it kind of gets later in the season what we realistically can afford to kind of offer. But it'll be something very cool and F1 related down there. Definitely. But anyway, into the review. So I hand you over to the capable hands, the numbers man, that is Stephen.
Oh yeah. Got my spreadsheet going, so bam.
We got spreadsheets. We professional.
Okay, here we go. Rounding up the top 5 and then we'll just list off the others. So, Lewis Hamilton, obviously race winner, 44 points. Same as Valtteri Bottas last week.
Same as his race number on his car.
Bam.
Irrelevant, but...
Yep. Second appearance in the top 5 from Lewis. Valtteri Bottas, 33 points. Currently the top scorer overall. Then we have Max Verstappen, 31 points, obviously bouncing back from last week. Lando Norris makes the top 5 again. Best turbo pick with 30 points. That was 60 points if you turboed. Then Alexander Albon with 24 points, rounding up the top 5. Any thoughts on those?
I mean, it's impressive that Lando has managed to score ahead of Alexander Albon again. And again be the best turbo of there. That last lap really kind of did pay off for him. I think he probably got those overtake points, beating his teammate points, finishing 5th, getting into Q3. Great weekend for Lando Norris.
Exactly, yeah.
He again is proven a great pick. Great to have him in the team this week, but unfortunately still turboing Sergio Perez, who I think would have been that guy if obviously Lando, well actually he may not have done, but finishing 5th might have been enough. It would have been interesting to see. Definitely if he finished 4th, I think it would have been enough.
Yeah.
But yes, good top 5.
So, I'll just rattle through the rest. Sergio Perez had 23 points. Lance Stroll 21 points. Strong return for Racing Point there. Kimi got 17 points. Kevin Magnussen 14 points. Daniel Ricciardo 13 points. Daniel Kvyat 13 points. Antonio Giovinazzi 12 points. Carlos Sainz 11. Nicholas Latifi with 4 points. Roman Grosjean 3 points. George Russell 3 points as well, because he actually lost quite a few places. I think he got -5 because of his impressive qualifying performance. Messed up his points really. Pierre Gasly got -1. Esteban Ocon got -4. Sebastian Vettel -9. Charles Leclerc -13. So Gasly, the only guy to finish with a minus point. Yeah, there we go.
Poor Pierre, but he just went backwards.
He just went backwards.
Unfortunately for him, so it was difficult on that front. But yeah, very interesting, isn't it? The drop off.
Yeah.
Is quite severe in F1 Fantasy. How, you've got those 20 points, and then it's the low teens, and then it's quite significant there. Interestingly enough, we'll get back to it when we get in the preview, but I think maybe Kevin Magnussen might be a sneaky pick to maybe upgrade George Russell on if you've made your money.
Possibly, yeah.
Because it depends where his rating's gone down, because I think his price might have gone down. And, you would have lost points on Russell anyway.
Yeah.
But I think,
I can update this now if you want a little dynamic pricing update.
Oh, well.
Or should we do that after the points?
We'll do that after the constructors' points. But I think an early teaser out there. Haas might not be the worst one. Well, Grosjean probably still is terrible to pick.
Yeah.
But,
still one of 3 drivers that are still on minus points after the first 2 weeks.
But yes, constructors' points.
Mercedes, 72 points. Get Mercedes in your team, because the next team on there is Red Bull with 50 points. That's 22 points difference just in a team. Racing Point came in at 3rd with 39 points. McLaren had 31 points, and Alfa Romeo got 24 points.
That's pretty impressive for Alfa Romeo.
I guess because of Ocon's retirement, Renault were just relying on...
Yeah, that is a surprise though. Alfa Romeo. All right, fair enough.
But then you're still 50 points off Mercedes.
But I suppose they made up a lot of points because they both went forward up the grid rather than going backwards like, other teams.
Yeah.
But yeah, I top 5 constructors, that was decent on that one. So I guess we now kind of switch in. Are we going to dynamic pricing update, or are we going on the league update?
And a quick look at dynamic pricing. Lando Norris continues to rise. He's he is £1 million more expensive now from the start of the season. Lance Stroll is also nearly 1 million. He's 0.9 million up from the start of the season. And the ones on the downward term, Sebastian Vettel, he's 0.7 million down from the start of the season. So yeah, there it is.
There it is. Dynamic
George
pricing.
Russell hasn't changed his price.
And on to the league.
So at number 1 we have McLaren and some extras by C Lines. I believe he was in the top 5 last week with that Mega driver. Yes, he is the McLaren team, the triple header of McLaren. He turboed Norris, which was a great pick.
I think, actually, this might be Charlotte from Purple Sector. Actually, C Lines. But I'm not sure. That can maybe be confirmed on the night.
For some reason, we only get the initials and second name.
So we guess.
Yeah.
C Lines.
Apologies.
We'll go mystery.
If you know us and we pretend we don't know you. They got 168 points, maintained their moving to the top of the league. You had Frank Williams Orchestra by T. Grevlos. He got 186 points this week with the double racing point. Oh yeah, good choice. Looking very similar to our teams, apart from he had Sainz and Bottas instead of Lewis and Norris. Who's number 3? 92 Racing Flag CC Racing.
Oh, a new one into the top 5.
New one into the top 5 by C. Klassen. He scored 282 points this week with a mega driver of Lewis Hamilton, scoring him 132 points just with Lewis.
I do just think that holding off how the Mercedes looks, waiting for that second race at Silverstone with kind of streaks on qualifying and race with Lewis Hamilton, that is going to be your time to big time cash in.
Oh yeah. You have the double race point in there. Pierre Gasly got you -1 point, but when you have Lewis mega driver, doesn't make much difference. Tags Motorsport is number 4 in the league. He got 196 points this week. Very impressive. No mega driver in there. He had Turbo Lando. He had Lewis and Max. Racing Point as his team. Wasn't a bad... They were third highest team. So yeah, pretty impressive there. And that was by C Tagger. I'm not sure if I said their name. Tags Motorsport. And rounding up the top 5 of another new entry is Up and Down by D Jones. They scored 216 points this week with Lewis, double Racing Point drivers, Lando Norris and Mercedes as their team. Bam, top 5. Good job, guys.
Very impressive. A couple of new entries there. I think in these first few weeks when those mega drivers are being used, things are going to fluctuate, and I think probably when we get to Spain, we'll probably have a good understanding of where things are in the league.
Yes.
But yeah, that is a roundup. That's probably the roundup of the race review. All the points there. Congratulations if you've done well this week. We managed to get 206 points. It was obviously same team there. But we took the -10 hit for kind of doing the double swap, getting Ricciardo and Grosjean out, which was a very good idea to get Lance Stroll and Lando Norris in. But now we move on to Hungary, and it's a new track, so we don't have anything to kind of base it on other than what we've kind of seen before. But top picks, easy ones to get out the way. Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas have one of the Mercedes drivers because they're probably going to be finishing in the top 2.
Yep.
Unless things drastically change at Red Bull, I can pretty much see 1-2s for Mercedes the entire season, bar reliability issues.
Yeah.
That car is just too good not to have in there. Outside of that, who do you think might be good picks?
Racing Point, barring on any investigation outcomes. Racing Point and McLaren. It'll be interesting to see if Norris is just strong at Austria or if he can actually continue this race form into Hungary. Has he made that improvement from last year? It's kind of difficult to tell from the first 2 weeks. They're the same track, so you can't take too much from both weekends going into Hungary. But the Racing Point's looking very strong. I think midfield, I don't think you can go wrong with that Racing Point.
And it's the one team that you probably go double up's not the worst thing in the world, considering just how cheap both of them are, which frees you up, I think, on points elsewhere to play around with. I mean, Daniel Ricciardo got 13 points last week, and I thought he had quite a good performance.
Well, he was in 8th in the end, so...
I suppose, yeah, he's only gained technically... Actually, he started 8th, so he didn't gain any positions in the race. He just finished there.
Yeah.
So I suppose on that front, there's just something about it. I can see Daniel Ricciardo finishing ahead of the McLarens next week in Hungary. I can see it happening. I just think Austria's worked out very well for McLaren, and we spoke about it in our race review podcast yesterday. I just think their race pace isn't quite there yet. And Sergio Perez, I think it's going to be third time lucky. I think he will be the best one out of it, and I'm going to stick with him as a turbo because I feel it's the one that you turbo Lando Norris, and then Sergio Perez would kind of become best of the rest on that front. But yeah, Lando is... I think still a very good bet. I think your top two in the midfield are probably Lando Norris and Sergio Perez as kind of the pins of good, because I think it'd be interesting to see where Carlos Sainz is, because he did very well in Hungary last year. I think he might have finished P5 last year in Hungary, or at least P6. One of his ghost races where he wasn't covered by Sky Sports. But I think Perez and Albon, I'm still looking. He might be an interesting one if he does go into that turbo, because I think he'd be a regular.
It doesn't look like he is going to go into that turbo.
No.
His price has gone up since the start of the season.
Exactly. So I just don't think Albon there. Verstappen, he's going to be a solid points return, but compared to Mercedes, they're probably worth the extra investment. I think it is, just worth going gung-ho on Mercedes and trying to piece out the midfield from there and try and get ahead of the trend. Outside picks, I think maybe Raikkonen and Alfa Romeo and Kevin Magnussen in Haas. And Kevin Magnussen definitely the one more, just because Haas finished 12th last week. I think Magnussen's got the beating of Roman Grosjean in both qualifying and race pace consistently. So I think you're going to pick up your teammate points there. He's cheap. Haas aren't kind of really favoured at all. And he got floor damage in that collision with Vettel and Leclerc. I think he wouldn't have been far off the points. I think they potentially look a good bet, because they'll be slow in qualifying, but quicker in the race.
Yeah.
So therefore they can get a lot of position points in the race, getting those teammate points. He might not be the worst one. I'm going to see how Haas look in practice, which they always look kind of worse. But if you got your George Russells and you can afford it, maybe switching the George Russells out for the Kevin Magnusens.
Yeah, George Russell isn't really been that consistent point scorer as he was last season. So far, -9 total. It's going to be interesting.
Well, I think the problem is George might now be output, because he used to just go 19th to 20th, finish the race, make up easy positions. Now he's actually got a car that he can qualify higher and maybe even get into Q2.
The race pace still isn't there to back it up.
Yeah, well, it potentially is, but maybe the reliability isn't of Williams yet. The engine blew, and go from there. So there's a lot of ones to kind of gamble on and play on outside of that in those teams to pick up. Find your kind of fifth driver and who's going to be the best scoring out of those. That's definitely going to be ones to. We're talking marginal points here, but they potentially could be really good ones.
Yeah.
But that's it on that. So constructor, quick one. Get Mercedes.
Yeah.
Anything else to add on that?
Get Mercedes.
Get Mercedes. Just like we said, every week is going to literally be like, don't take the gamble on Racing Point, Red Bull, or whatever being cheap. You're not going to make up the points, most likely, on the drivers. So go with Mercedes, because they just consistently will be the highest point scoring. And over the course of the season, the gap between the money you might have saved on getting Racing Point, shall we say, over Mercedes, it's going to be, you're talking about 200, 300, 400 points maybe.
Yeah.
Definitely by the end of things. So yeah, turbo picks.
You said it earlier, going for Checo turbo. That Racing Point seems the quickest car in that midfield, and Checo showed his pace in Austria GP. Hungary, it's got those long straights, it's got the parts of the track that's going to suit the Racing Point. I'm feeling a strong performance from Racing Point and a strong performance from Checo, turbo Checo. Other than Checo, like you said, Carlos Sainz had a strong Hungary last year. He's probably going to be looking to bounce back from a couple of, not poor results, but a couple of being beaten by Lando probably going to want to bounce back, try and get the best of Lando this week.
And Ricciardo for me is the outside pick. If you've got Ricciardo, for some reason, his performances look better than what his points return has been. But he's then a gamble, and this is why it's a gamble pick, because I just don't see he's not necessarily getting the points return that his performances merit. But I can see him maybe beating one or two of the McLarens and potentially beating Lance Stroll as well.
Potentially, yeah.
But I don't know. Potentially Lance Stroll might have just been...
He was having a very good race until Lance Stroll took him out.
Yeah.
Not took him out, but...
forced him wide and allowed Lando through, so that he essentially went from being 6th to 8th.
Yeah, which would have cost him quite a few points.
I think so. I think he would have been in the 20s.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely on top of that. So Ricciardo is still there because, well, if you've got him, it's not a gamble on his price, but I imagine he's probably lost price. He's definitely going to be one to kind of maybe pick up. Maybe around Silverstone time, because his price might have dropped by $1 million, $2 million, potentially. But I think Ricciardo's performances throughout the season are actually going to be quite good.
Yep.
But I don't know. But that's turbos.
The outside pick, yeah. No one lower down because they're not going to score you enough points to benefit that turbo.
Who not to pick?
Anything with a Ferrari pad. So, you said the Hasses are a gamble. But still, those Ferrari-powered cars, you can't see them scoring highly. Because a big chunk of someone's fantasy points is scoring well in the top 10. Because you'll get flat out those points from the championship. So if you're not getting in the top 10, you could still have a good race. But you're not getting those championship points. Can you see Haas, Alfa, Ferrari scoring highly there? No. Especially avoid Ferrari, they're too expensive.
Didn't Kimi Raikkonen, though, be like the best of the guys? He outscored Daniel Kvyat, didn't he?
I'll check.
Put you on the spot here. Dun 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 dun. Check the spreadsheet.
Yes, he did. He got 17 points. See, him and Kevin Magnussen. I wouldn't go for Romain Grosjean, Giovinazzi, or either of the Ferrari drivers. There we go.
Yeah. I just think the Ferraris, for their price, even though Vettel's dropping like a stone in terms of price-wise, I still don't think they're worth the gamble until we have a better understanding of where that Ferrari car is. And I'm not going to contradict myself with any kind of gamble picks on it. I don't want to touch the AlphaTauri. Either of them.
Battle of their own. Although Pierre Gasly, top 5 performance in Austria round 1.
But I just feel for his price as well, because he's in the 10 million range. It's just it's a big gamble. Like, Pierre Gasly got in the top 5 with Lando Norris in week 1 of Austria.
Yeah.
But then he was the only one to get minus points.
Yeah.
In week 2, Daniel Kvyat got 14, and I think he got minus points, didn't he? Or was low. He was in single figures, certainly.
He got minus points for round 1 because he retired.
Yeah. So I just think the AlphaTauris, they're not really worth it on price. And there isn't really anything from them that I'm going, they might have a good race.
It's better to get one of the... Well, Lance Stroll is currently 8.8 million. And if he finishes the race, he's going to be in that top 10. So that's kind of a guarantee. So yeah, I think Checo's still under 10 million. Or he may be in the 10 millions. So he's also a great shout. Instead of those AlphaTauris, yeah.
Yeah. Right, so we will do our teams now before rounding off with our Kimi moment of the week. And so, our teams, I don't know, are you making any changes to the teams that we did last week?
I haven't made any changes yet. I'll probably look at practice See, Lando Norris, he's up by 1 million. I just want to see how his pace is track other than Austria. Because he did very well last year at Austria. Is it just he loves the track? Or has he actually made an overall improvement this year on his race management and race pace?
I'm sticking with it at the moment and again looking at practice. But like I said, I'm going to see whether it's possible to bring in Kevin Magnussen instead of George Russell. I feel like I might be getting more points for that low Haas driver, and I imagine he's probably lost or gone down in price a little bit, that he might now be affordable, but I'm not sure. That's the one to kind of play around with and certainly see. In terms of the other midfields, like I said, I'm pretty happy with Norris and Perez, and Stroll just kind of for his price is, even though he's losing out on those teammate points, kind of feels like he's a regular top 10 finisher.
Yeah.
For now. So he, early doors, while his price keeps building before you can use that wild card, he certainly seems like a definite good one to invest in.
Yeah.
Well.
There we go.
That's it for our teams. That's the look ahead to the weekend. So there's only one way to round off an F1 Fantasy Weekly, and that is with a Kimi moment of the weekend. If you watched last week's episode, you'll realise that obviously, you know, we were talking about Kimi losing his wheel.
Losing his wheel going on an adventure.
4 mini Kimis.
Yep.
4 mini Kimis, maybe having some ice cream.
Yes.
So, we are very excited to announce a new ice cream brand. It's called the Kimi Magnum. Now we may obviously be kind of targeted like Rich Energy for copyright claims, and we may have to change our logo. But yes, we've now exciting flavours. We have the Iceman.
The Iceman, love it.
We have Triple Wheel.
Triple wheel. Oh,
just you know, for those ones who don't want to race on 4 wheels. That's a chocolatey flavour. We oh god, I'm making these up on the spot.
What about the Flying Fin?
The Flying Fin is certainly one. Yeah, that's more a kind of caramelly brand, and also we have the happy I'm not in Ferrari anymore.
It's a bit of a long one, but
we're working on the brand. It's going on here, so we're very excited to announce. Also, this is a thank you to Katie and her husband Stephen, who she was kind of laughed at last week's kind of mini Kimmies, so she immediately went mini Magnums, and her husband Stephen on Photoshop created these. So look at our 4 mini Magnums. Wow, don't they look great?
Bam.
They look incredible. And as always, it's something a little bit daft and stupid to end off F1 Fantasy Weekly. If you switched off at this point, we're fair enough in terms of it gets in there. But that's it from us today for F1 Fantasy Weekly. Make sure you comment down below if you want rate your team to kind of be within it. Obviously, send us in your teams and we will rate your teams with a Kimi rating out of 5 Kimis. But if not, obviously it's okay. We'll just kind of pick it up and pick it off. We'll do the usual things, and next week will actually just be a shorter episode, as it will just be a review because we'll actually have a break.
Yeah.
How crazy is that? It feels weird to have a break in racing. But yes, comment down below with how you did in the weekend and how you're doing in the league. It'd be interesting to hear what position you are in the league. I think we're in the 60s now. We were...
Yes.
outside the top 100, but now we moved up in terms of that. But anyway, that's it from me and Stephen. So, if you're new around here or haven't done so already, Stephen?
They can like, they can subscribe, and they can ding that bell.
Ding that bell. But that's it, guys. So for now, you F1 fans, keep racing.